The penultimate episode of The Boys is just around the corner, and in about 24 hours' time, we'll know what state the story is going to be left in with only one episode remaining. With Homelander getting the V1 at the end of the previous episode, the trailer for episode 7 showed us that it very much seems like it's going to have worked on him, and the side effects that many of us thought could occur simply won't. So I'm preparing for a Homelander unleashing his full wrath. We've got Dogknott, Sheline, the Deep potentially drowning, the Gen V crew arriving, and Homelander sitting in that Oval Office with a smile. I think this is going to be an eventful one for sure. So with that, I wanted to break down the trailer and also give my theories and predictions on what I think could happen next. Here is The Boys Season 5 Episode 7 trailer explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. So the trailer for the next episode opened up and it had Homelander standing at the top of the Vought Tower overlooking the city whilst there was nobody else in the room. Whilst there have been shots in the past that have been similar to this where Homelander has been there on his own, when I saw the way that this shot was framed with Homelander being positioned in the center with all of the chairs around him just being empty, I got that feeling like he was quite literally the single remaining member of the Seven and he's now left on his own. It could be symbolic of him getting what he wanted, immortality, but losing everything else in the process. Sister Sage switched, Black Noir is dead, the Deep has done a runner, Firecracker's dead, Soldier Boy might well have switched, seeing as though we didn't see him at all in the trailer, and Oh Father is nowhere to be seen either, so maybe he could be dead too. I feel like Soldier Boy could end up regretting giving him the V1 because Homelander is going to view himself as superior, when for the most part of this season, Homelander has viewed himself as inferior to his father because he wasn't immortal. I also think that Homelander may view Soldier Boy as a threat. We know that Soldier Boy can erase the V from a soup system, and even V1 like we saw him do with Bombsight. So with Soldier Boy previously saying to Homelander, "You don't deserve to live forever," before he ended up siding with him, we could see Homelander potentially trying to kill Soldier Boy or getting him put back in the cryo chamber so that he can alleviate any potential threat in the future. As technically, Soldier Boy could end Homelander's reign at any point if he wanted to. I think that could genuinely happen in the opening moments of the episode if we pick right back up at the field again. The shot of Homelander looking out of the window at Vought is something that I also feel is symbolic because he's looking out over his city. The city that nobody can take away from him now. Up until now, he's been leading but been going through the president as some kind of puppet as to not disrupt the people. However, with a shot of Homelander being inside of the Oval Office during the ending, I think Homelander is going to believe that he deserves the office of the highest power in the country, rather than just being at the top of Vought Tower. So that's why I also feel he's fixated on looking over the city, because he believes he deserves to be sat in the best office in the country. There was a look of contentment on his face, which makes me think that he's feeling a new sense of power. A power that truly makes him unstoppable, like a god, and it will justify him being able to unleash his wrath on those that he views as unfaithful. The next part of the trailer was of Oh Father, and he said, "In this new world, there's no room for heresy." This showed the hold that Homelander and those that believe in him are going to take over the people. There is essentially no room in the world for people that disagree with Homelander, and it very much feels like those that do will be killed. With this newfound mindset that they're enforcing as well, I think they're going to turn the internment working camps into extermination camps, so a mass slaughtering is most likely going to take place if people aren't willing to admit their undevoted love and following towards Homelander. So the backdrop of this episode does truly look like it's going to be a dark one, maybe the darkest yet. Accompanied with this, we had a quick succession of shots underpinning the speech. One was of the Deep out by the water on his own, sitting and reflecting on what he did to Black Noir. I actually think the Deep's story is about to get really interesting in these final 2 episodes. I say this because the Deep killing Black Noir is a monumental moment for his fate. The moment that he did that, it basically meant that he was no longer safe on land. The Deep doesn't have the right to kill any member of the Seven, not like Homelander does, and Homelander would perceive the Deep doing that as negligent and he'd look to punish him. He's always been useless in Homelander's eyes, and this could well have been the thing that pushed Homelander to kill him. Black Noir was also going to be used as the miracle piece that Oh Father and Homelander were going to do to prove that Homelander was an actual god by making Black Noir speak, so he ruined that for him. This is why the Deep has turned to the oceans, to be safe in the water and out of Homelander's grasp. However, with him backing the oil pipeline and going against his morals out of the fear of Homelander, he damned 1.4 billion fish to their death, and they knew that it was him that supported it. This shows that the deep also isn't safe in the water because the fish will most likely want revenge for him supporting something that they weren't going to be happy with, it backfiring and causing a large amount of deaths. So the deep doesn't have a sense of belonging anymore, and I believe we're going to see that all throughout the next episode. He's not safe on land or sea, and I find it interesting that his story is most likely going to end like that because in the show, he's never really had a sense of belonging in the Seven either. If the Deep wasn't truly an awful person, I'd feel bad for him, but because he's irredeemable, it does become quite funny. The scene that we saw later on in the trailer with the Deep looking like he was struggling in the water makes me think that the fish are definitely going to turn on the Deep and do their best to make him pay for all of the deaths that he indirectly caused. It won't be Homelander to kill the Deep and finish off his story, it will most likely be the species that he cares about most. That'd mark a fitting end to the character, so I do hope we end up seeing that. As well as that, we also saw a shot of Dogknott and Sheline slaughtering absolutely everybody that was inside of a conference room. Judging by the red that was seen on a character's hat in the background, one could have imagined that they were Homelander supporters, but I'm guessing that they're clearly not. With Marie and Jordan appearing in this episode, I do wonder if this could potentially be taking place at Godview. It seems like Starlight and Mothers Milk are going to be heading there and doing their best to fight off Dogknott and Sheline. As this was said, Hughie said, "We lost." I think this is actually going to be from when Butcher and the crew make it back to their HQ, and Hughie and Starlight will be told about Homelander getting the V1. Himself and Starlight stayed back in the previous episode, so this will most likely be the breaking of the news. This was followed by Butcher saying, "Even if I have to drag your broken effing carcasses over the finish line, we're going all the way, no matter what the cost." With him saying no matter the cost, this makes me think that there's going to be a large death or number of deaths in the next episode. After all, it is titled The Frenchman, the Female, and the Man Called Mother's Milk. So we're most likely going to see the group trying to devise a new plan on how they can stop Homelander, as the virus is now pretty much obsolete. As he was saying this, there was a bunch of shots that accompanied the dialogue as it built towards the climax. There was one of Dogknott causing absolute chaos in the conference room, one of O'Father preaching and unveiling to the world that Homelander was their new god and that the country would be following the Democratic Church of America. There was also a shot of Sister Sage putting something into her eye. Whilst we know that she usually does that to do a lobotomy, this looked slightly different, like she was almost drawing something from her eye. We know that Sage was delaying the creation of V1 because she didn't want Homelander to become immune, so it makes me wonder if she's actually now going to create some, or some temp V1 so that they stand a chance against Homelander when looking to fight him. There was also one of Jordan and Marie, which personally I didn't really care for. I kinda hope that the Gen V characters aren't just shoehorned into this episode, or Marie doesn't come out of the blue and have a large contribution to Homelander's demise like it originally thought it would. With Gen V being cancelled, their characters just feel a bit redundant now, so I don't really want them to have a large involvement. I want to focus more on the boys' characters. And then the trailer concluded with Homelander sitting in the Oval Office as he was now officially the most powerful person in the country. There was nobody standing in his way, his own mortality wasn't, the virus wasn't, and people were now gonna listen or die. So it's put the environment for the penultimate episode in a really interesting, hostile position. Now, there's a lot of pressure on these final two episodes for it to not fall into the category of shows that didn't know how to produce a solid ending. Nobody thought Stranger Things would tank the ending, but they somehow did. So let's just hope The Boys doesn't go down that same pathway. Take a different route. So, there you have it. The Boys Season 5 Episode 7 trailer explained.